Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnett Bain.
That is correct.
We are here. Hey, I want to talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
When we start out wanting to defy the odds, when we start off wanting to fight back about something that we've heard or been told about who we are, and there's this deep part of us that says, no, I'm not. Yeah. That kind of healthy anger as a boundary and the fuel that provides. Clearly, in Nick's case, it's valuable. It got him to where he achieved some extraordinary things. But I think there's a part that we can talk about on the other side of that. You know, it's a brilliance fire. The fire starts, in us, and we're like, I'm going to overcome. And then there has, in my mind, to be a deeper reason for doing it.
Yes, and I totally agree, and I would love to continue and go deeper. Unfortunately, we ran out of time with Nick because I know that he has lots to say about that other piece that you're referring to.
Well, he did.
You sort of blast off. If you think of, he was calling from South Florida, so I'm thinking of Cape Canaveral or the Kennedy Space Center. You have these huge rockets and all this blasting thrust, this masculine will in action doing it. You just blast off with force to escape the bonds of Earth. And we punch through the gravitational field. And then if you remember at some point, I'm thinking of Apollo 13, I remember so clearly watching on television and listening to how they were using the attraction of the moon's gravitational pull to pull them and then whip them around the dark side and slingshot them back. So at some point, there is a balance between the thrust of pushing away from what was and then allowing yourself to become intimate, to be close and tender with what is pulling you into. You cannot get there. You cannot make ultimate change being reactive. Eventually, it's reactive plus responsive. Those are those two energies together.
Yeah, and there's such a great, this analogy of going off into space. The story, of course, that's so powerful, and we've heard it before, is as Mitchell, the astronaut.
Edgar Mitchell.
Edgar Mitchell was coming back. He had this...
You know what? We're going to have Edgar Mitchell on this program.
That's a good call.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But he reports having this spiritual experience of seeing the Earth in the context of this larger space, if you will. He's coming back from space, and he sees this little circle, this little planet.
The Earthrise image, it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, that image changed. It really changed. It was a cultural meme. Everything changed once we had an image of this little blue marble dangling in space. And suddenly we saw there are no borders. There is one very fragile energy system, and we are all in it together.
But see, this is the other side of what you're talking about. So all the will in action that got us and that took us to space, and what it took to be an astronaut, and what it took to be on that team, and the courage it takes. Because even though we have these great plans to get you back, that's
the best laid plans.
Huge.
Then you have to surrender. You fire up to push away from what was. And then you have to be able to be mature enough to surrender the firing up energy in order to be drawn into what can be.
It's an utter humility. The coming back, what changed him was the seeing this new perspective and the humility that it brought up. And so I think that's a piece of the puzzle too, is that it's sort of one of those both things. I'm going to change topics, but not really. One of the things we've talked about is that the middle of paradox is the point of power. We can see things on both sides. We've talked a lot on this show about shadow work, where everything has sort of a right-hand side of the page and a left-hand side of the page. I was speaking recently with someone who said, well, I have a gratitude practice. And I said, gratitude is so great. It's so powerful to have gratitude for all the blessings in our lives until it's not, until it becomes a way that, I'm so grateful for this dollar I have in my pocket. And then that becomes a cop-out. But what about the $10? What about the possibility of more? It becomes a way that we're opting out. So everything has sort of two sides to it. And the point I'm making here, I'm not totally clear on the point I'm making, but the idea that the balancing, I mean, I think that's where the wisdom is that, you know, it's so powerful to have thrust and push. But then on the way back, there's another side, which is the opposite of thrust and push.
Well, one is a feminine energy and one is a masculine energy, and one is not better or less than the other. But together in synergy, we generate everything. And you know, gratitude is if gratitude has an agenda, then it is being used with as a expression of will.
Yeah.
So, which is fine, but it'll top out. If gratitude is an appreciation and a care for that is developed as a muscle, as a tuning, like on your set, then gratitude as an energy is a sustaining energy.
I like the language of energies because these energies are best served in a balance. You know, that there's these energies. Oftentimes in our community, you know, we teach gratitude as a skill, and it can be until it becomes a crutch. Well, I'm being grateful for this. I'm being grateful.
If there's an in order to, if we say I'm being grateful, and if there is a under the table, behind my back, under the rug, I'm being grateful in order for, then there is an agenda. And that is beautiful, and it will also top out.
Yes. It's almost
but if it is an unencumbered gratitude, it won't top out.
No, that's right. And the energy and the frequency of gratitude in the flow of complexity is really a beautiful thing. But when it's this siloed, knee-jerk way of responding,
it's another way of controlling,
or opting out. Yeah. Let me opt out. I'm being grateful, and so it is. You know what I'm saying? And so it is. You know, what about the part of me that says, but that's not good enough? Yes. I want more.
Yeah.
What about this fire? What about the thrust? You know, the pain of having tried and not succeeded. At some point, we can go to, well, let me be grateful. You know, please, folks, don't get me wrong. There is a beautiful place for gratitude as a complementary energy that we're familiar with and we have a relationship with in this myriad of energies that we flit between, right?
Yeah, well said. I mean, I think you're referring to the complexity of all of the selves. You know, Whitman, I think I contain multitudes. So all of those multitudes of every experience that I have had as an infant, as a baby, as a toddler, as a child, as an adolescent, as a young adult, as a adult, as a conniving adult, as a manipulative adult, as a doer, and then as a beer, and then as a spiritual adult. I mean, all of these nested selves, they all have a perspective they all operate out of a particular perspective, and they all have worldviews and agendas that are very rarely aligned with where I am right now. And I hear from them 24/7.
That's right.
24/7. And so there is this internal push-pull.
Yeah. I guess what's coming up for me is the imbalances of identifying with one aspect of our experience, right? So I get some benefit or outcome out of being the doer. And then I have a real trouble putting the clutch in on the doer. I start to organize like, yeah, that's the way to be. I'm the go-getter. I'm the doer. And so putting the clutch in that is a maturation, being able to just go, oh, right, and I'm the surrenderer, and I'm grateful, and I have a sense of deserving that says this is great and I'm grateful for it, but it's not good enough. I want more, whatever. It's because one of the things I feel like in our community I hear is these kind of prescripted, narrow ways. I feel like one of the things we do on this show, which is what we do best, is we throw complexity into things. Right? Because so much of our world is these one-liners, you know, attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, seven steps. 7 steps, and they're the only 7 steps that
Right.
you'll ever have to do. Not that there 7 steps happen to be. 7 is a esoteric number and a balanced number. 3 levels on either side, with the 4th step being the hardest, most entrenched energy. So there is power in the 7. But there are many, many, many interlocking processes of 7. To say any one is going to resolve all of our complexity is a big step. But yeah, we try and make things overly simplified. Not that they need to be that complex, or difficult, but they are complex. I don't even know what I just said.
I do.
I have a sense of what I just said, but it's
So look, one of the things that I think you and I are very aware of is the oversimplifying. We're not trying to make things complex, but they are complex. They can be in moments very simple.
And we're pretty
very
heady
clear.
anyway, so I don't know. I mean, it's not exactly, it doesn't exactly come easy to either of us that we can have a chat at the Waffle House, although I'm trying my best to get out of making it overly complicated.
Yeah.
Overly complicated. But then again, you're right. The other side of it is, it does no one a service to oversimplify mystery. It's mysterious.
That's it. And now I'm just going to throw another and.
Yeah.
And our intellectual capacities are very constructive until they're not, right?
Exactly.
That we can carve up complexity is a really valuable part of what we do until we recognize it's shtick again.
Exactly.
This is the point, is that that's the humility piece, the authentic humility, where we realize that, everything has its top out point. We're really into it for a phase, whatever it is. My gratitude, I'm into it for a phase. And so I'm going, all right, look, I'm doing gratitude on everything, and it's kind of become a cop out. So I want to recognize that.
You want to play with a full deck.
That's
more and more cards to that deck. We are like flutes, and there is a wind that blows through these flutes that produces this gorgeous music. And the wind that is blowing through us are these archetypal energies. And there are a number of them. And I won't go through them all on this show because it would be incredibly boring, and I frankly can't remember most of them. But there are these, call it like a hand of cards, and each one of those cards is an archetypal energy. But we generally default to only 2 or 3. We have a warrior in us. Everyone does, and warrior energy. And we also have an innocent. And we have a magician, and we also have a logician. Somebody that is married to logic, and we also have energies that are open to the miraculous. And many, many more, but we have a tendency as a result of how we come into the life and how we're blueprinted and how we're socialized to rely on, we all know people, I'm always the warrior.
Right.
Everything's a fight.
Right.
No matter what it is, I'm going to get that parking spot, it's a fight. Everything is a fight. When we begin to become aware of, what are the kinds of habits and the way that I relate to everything, you start to see it in yourself. There's nothing wrong with it, but add a few more cards to the deck. Well, maybe I can offset. Maybe I don't have to fight for my place in line. Maybe I don't have to feel that I was here first and how long is it taking for the waitress to bring me a cup of coffee. Maybe I can moderate that with certain other energies and make a practice. And then the truest self that I am is not any one of these archetypes.
That's it.
But it is the me that is the space, the thread between all of them. That is aware that I can express all of them. That is the truest self.
I want to establish some cutting-edge consciousness language because this is a moment in time when we can.
Yeah.
We've spoken many times.
Is anybody still listening to us?
I
or
hope
are we
so.
just talking?
The putting the clutch in and the shifting.
Mm-hmm.
So what there's all these gears, if you will, to take this analogy that we've sort of been using and formalize it a little bit. And these gears represent modes of operating.
That's
and
good.
And the warrior.
Friedman. That's so good.
And the waif and the, whatever.
They're all gears.
And so what we're talking about is the putting the clutch in and shifting gears.
That's fabulous.
And when we shift gears, like let's say we're in a warrior vibe and it's working for us and we're winning in the warrior game until it doesn't work, until it tops out. And then we, through whatever we come to understand that it's topping out and we're able to put the clutch in. And we're able to shift into a different gear. And then we tend to get enamored with that gear. And we ride that sucker until that tops out. And we go, all right, wait a minute. Now I got to put the clutch in. And to become really agile in shifting gears, maybe moment to moment.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. So, yes, I mean, treat your life as if it's a transmission.
Take that both ways, literally
exactly.
and figuratively.
We are the transmission masters.
And we're just
recognize what gear we're in.
That's
put
it.
in the clutch.
And shift. And then don't become too enamored with any single gear because it can only get you so far.
Well, here's
There's a functionality to
exactly.
play with this in first gear. It's good for getting up hills, but it doesn't do very well on a highway, right?
That's right. So if you're like on the freeway in first gear, it's going to be a world of pain. It's going to be a world of pain. The other thing is that we think, I know, I go back and forth in this for my whole life, that no, I am in first gear or second gear because of what is going on in the world outside of me. And more I am owning, not just as a concept, but experientially, that no, what gear I'm in, there is a time lag because we live in time and space, but what gear I am will precipitate into time and space as what I experience. If I'm in first gear, I will always be chugging up a hill.
Yeah, that's true. That is
if
a
I
really
am in fifth
good
gear,
point.
I will never get up a hill.
Yeah.
There are no hills I will ever get up.
Yeah. That's so great. You know what's so interesting, because there's another part of this conversation that it's very experiential. But it's interesting when you and I flail a little bit, right? So things aren't going as planned, and we have the way we're very comfortable and how the conversation goes, and then it's not working that way, and we're second guessing.
There's clouds of feathers all over the studio. We're flopping around.
But that's always
stepping in our water dish.
That's when something brilliant comes out, So I was sitting here listening and shift and clutch. I'm like, oh, I got it, because we've been talking in this language for so long. And now the metaphor is really usable, right? We now can really work with this metaphor in a way that we couldn't prior to kind of coming to that point of flailing.
Well, there's so ways. I just love this. We should do a talk on it someplace. We should. Let's plan on doing that. So you figure, let's just start with we could start with 7 primary, but we could also go to the 33, I think it's 33 archetypal energies that are represented by the major arcana of the 33 major. Is it 33 or 36?
You're talking about the Tarot?
Of the Tarot deck, the major arcana. So we could just see we are operating a transmission that's got 33 gears.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing. Yeah,
we're talking about it.
Yeah,
it's already in development.
Exactly. We have to give it some more thought.
Yeah.
And then we have to get into the archetype of delivering it, actually. There is an archetype. I am not that intimate with that archetype because I don't even recall the name, and that gives you some insight into how sketchy my manifesting ability is.
Yeah.
It requires a very particular relationship with a very particular archetype. It's one thing to create it, but it's another, which happens in the inner world, but to actually
express it
and pull it out into the world, that's a whole different archetype.
Yeah. So what?
The Mason.
To actually find an arena wherein we can play with this as an exercise, where we can actually embody it and practice it out. That would be fun.
Well, actors
That's right. There you
Actors.
go.
So
see what happens
see how we can pull this
spontaneously?
together. What a big show this is
It's
for
an
us. I don't know. It
acting.
may not be for anybody else.
No,
but
no.
for
I
us.
think it will be for people.
For acting, it's an acting
No,
thing.
it's such a great point.
Without getting mental, without going into
Yes.
into Strasbourg or any of this sort of traditional work where it's very mental. You just drop into your body relationship with these energies and express them.
I love that.
You drop into anger, you drop into rage, which is the easiest one for most people. And you see that when you're working with actors. Actors, every sort of response to a line, their first instinct is to go angry because it's the easiest emotion to drop in, maybe because it's so denied in us.
That's interesting. I had an acting teacher that...
we're all over the place here today on this thing.
But I had an acting teacher or director that I was in college. I was doing summer stock. And the first time I ever heard this, but he said to me, what's your choice? Which goes back to the head trip. But whatever. He asked, what's your choice? And he kept shaking his head. He goes, make a sexual choice. And I was like, it was in
second easiest.
It was in the show Harvey, which is about the invisible rabbit, and I'm playing. I don't remember. Dwayne was the character's name, and I'm like, "What's sexual here?" Like I don't understand, you know. But it was really interesting because then he said to me afterwards, he says, "Look, whenever you can make the sexual choice, it's more interesting," you know, which is probably true. I don't know.
Well, that's what he's saying. Whenever you can, drop into sixth gear.
Drop into 16.
And that is that may work in summer stock for a 2-week run in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, but it's not gonna work for a varied career on the stage or in life.
No, of course not. No, but at Columbia
and
State
we all
Park,
know people that drop into gear 6. We all know people that make the sexual choice at all times.
Yeah. I think what happens is a lot of women learn to do that.
And a lot of men too.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying that can become something. So I've been doing some sales training. I don't know, that's right. And so some of the attractive women, part of their shtick is they can drop into that 6th gear very comfortably, and it works until it probably tops out. I don't know. I'm not going to go too far into that, but just to say that there's, that's
no one gear.
No one gear is going to get you there. No one gear is going to get you there.
And not even, and 2 gears helps, 3 gears helps. This is a synergy thing, you become exponentially more powerful. But we have this menu of archetypes and the degree to which we become familiar and have a relationship and allow that to express through us as music through a flute. We become increasingly more powerful.
And we contain all of them. And that's the story for today. So thanks for wandering around with me in the woods.
Yeah, I'm so lost.
We found some clearing.
Somebody point me toward the door because that was a really fun meandering, and we dearly hope that our listeners appreciate it as much as we did.
Well, we invite you to come back and hear more about it because I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the future. So stay with us, keep coming back, and enjoy the show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.